Okay, welcome back. So I wanted to tell you about my Nashville trip. So I just wanted to go down and visit Don. It had been, I guess, close to a year. He was supposed to be my date for a wedding, and then of course COVID sort of changed the standards there, and the wedding was moved. And I thought, well, you should just come up and we can hang out in June. And so I thought, oh, I should take a spring break. How about I go down there and drive? So that was a lot of fun. I think my top moment certainly was going to the National Museum of African American Music, which was lovely. And the jazz section was certainly my favorite. And yeah, hanging out, reading outside, went to the gym to pump iron, went on walks, just hanging out. Yeah, watching some films. We watched Portrait of the Lady on Fire. Finally, I made him watch that. We watched um Promising Young Woman, which is my second time and his first time. And Brink on Disney. We played Crash Bandicoot. We were trying to get some relics. So yeah, it was just a lot of fun. I his parents were nice enough to allow me to stay in their house, and I let me tell you about a story about heroic artichokes. That artichokes saved the Grant house. So we went to Donovan and me and Mr. and Mrs. Grant went to a fancy restaurant, and one of the appetizers was artichoke hearts. I think grilled California artichokes. No, they were grilled California artichokes. So they come out, there are three halves, and they're huge. They're like size of a hand. I was only able to eat one, and then I had two left over. And Donovan drove us back, and I I did. I left the remaining artichokes, which I took home, in his car. And so I'm getting ready to go to sleep. And I thought, oh no, the artichokes. So I'm looking for them, thought maybe I brought them in and put them in the kitchen, didn't. And then so I go down, must have left them in his car, and there's some water coming in through the ceiling of the garage. I'm like, oh, this is a problem. So I go upstairs. I'm like, Donovan, there's some flooding or, going through. And so he goes to check it out. He's like, uh-oh. And on the way up, there's a door that goes outside and then goes into the kitchen. So we're in the kitchen area. I notice there's water coming in through this door, and this water is up about 18 inches from the bottom of the door, and it's coming in. So it's like one of those scenes from Titanic, where the water's building. And so we end up sandbagging it, but with towels, and just putting towels against the bottom of the door. And at first, when we did this, there's this creaky noise, and it's the creak that, right before the water rushes in. But luckily, it didn't. And after we did that, I don't know what happened. Maybe just that pressure cleared out from the grate, because I think that there was some detritus that was blocking the water from entering the grate. But then it started to go down. But I was just thinking, if I hadn't gone down to get those artichokes, the Grant house could have been swept away in a flood. So it was huge flooding in Nashville. It's crazy. And then the next morning I wake up and there's sun. So it was a complete change. Saturday it was just all of this abysmal rain and flooding. And then Sunday it's like, oh, look at this, how beautiful it is. So heroic artichokes. Okay, so let's do some quickies. And then unfortunately I'm kind of fatigued, but I hope that my energy will hold out while I talk about urban legends and Joker number two. So, modern quickies, oddly, I'm caught up with Batman and Nightwing. So it's like now, I suppose each Batgirl Oracle episode will have the issues of that month, which is unheard of. So here we go. Batman 106, The Cowardly Lot, Part 1. Writer James Tynion IV, artists George Jimenez, and colorist Tomu Mori. Following the tragic events of Infinite Frontier number 1, Batman and his new ally Ghostmaker must reckon with a new gang operating in Gotham City. But are they connected to the re-emergence of the Scarecrow? Meanwhile, shadowy billionaire Simon Saint pitches an advanced law enforcement system to the new mayor. The creative team behind the epic Joker war continues to thrill pack, blah, blah, blah. And then the backup story is Demon or Detective begins as Damon Wayne is on the run. I have blah, blah, blah there as well. Okay. And just to note that Oracle aids Batman as he chases after the latest heist of the Unsanity Collective and questions the speed of his car and its modifications. So even though she's present, not really doing anything significant. Batman 107, The Cowardly Lot Part 2, same creative team. Tensions are sky high in Gotham City following the events at Arkham Asylum, and public opinion and unrest are starting to boil over. By the way, both of these are publisher synopses from DC Comics. The Dark Knight has his hands full, juggling the investigation of the reappearance of an old enemy and the rise of a new gang in Gotham called the Unsanity Collective. Gotham is getting more dangerous by the minute. And then there's Tales of the Ghostmaker or Legend of the Ghostmaker. So Babs is designing a new bat signal to communicate with Batjerk when he turns off his radio. Not going to talk to anyone. And we'll have Cass and Steph plant 12 single-use signals on rooftops, which seems wasteful. She discusses the A-Day attacks with Batjerk and who may be behind them. She's also investigating the Unsanity Collective and tells Batjerk what she knows of them. Okay, and that's Batman. So then we have Nightwing. So a bit more significant. I feel like we were teased a bit that we were going to see her play a big part, and I mean maybe it'll come up more. I don't know. Okay. So we've got Nightwing 78, Leaping into the Light Part 1, writer Tom Taylor, artist Bruno Redondo, colorist Adriano Lucas. Nightwing is back, and his drive to keep Bloodhaven safe has never been stronger, but his adopted city has elected a new mayor with the last name Zuko. When Nightwing enlists Batgirl's help in, which is she Batgirl or Oracle? She's between names. Help in investigating the politician bearing the same name as the man who murdered his parents, she unearths details that will shock and fundamentally change the hero. So there's a bit of a change with their relationship history or just their history period, that now Babs and Dick have first met in Gotham Heights as kids when they both went to deal with bullies separately and then ran into each other. And then later, Barbara fangirls over the Wayne mansion when her father drives Dick home. And I can show you this. I've got 78 and 79 prep to go. Boop. See. I can see it. Oh yeah, so here we are. There's a young Babs, young Dick, and then her later on. Her father shows up, of course, and then there's some fangirling here. Will you live in a castle? So new history for them of when they met, which is always interesting when they change things willy-nilly. In the present, Dick actually comes home after patrol and senses someone in his apartment. Oh yeah, this is pretty funny. Let's see here if I can get it. Plus that dog. It's right here. Yeah, senses someone there, and it's Barbara. She's wearing what she was actually wearing in Batman, may I add, which talk about continuity. Well done. Finally, DC Comics / editors. I don't know if it's the same editors, but I do love her Gloria Steinem glasses. Did they show? Yeah, Gloria Steinem right there. They changed slightly in the Urban Legends, but I do like these. I think they're funky, fresh. And she lays him out as she should. But I do like her outfit here, which I'll talk about. Outfits will pop up big time. We'll get that. Bam. Ha, 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 ha. So as Oracle. Oh, yeah, this was weird. Oh, I forgot about this. Look, because, well, oh, also this little love thing where she sees the dog and she's super excited about this particular dog. As Oracle, I was chosen to be the executor of Alfred Pennyworth's will. Isn't that weird? Is that just me? That's really weird. Why is it not I was chosen ... Why is it specifically because she was Oracle? She'd be able to relegate everything properly or negotiate everything. It's strange. I wonder what the semantics there or why that particular choice there if we were to parse it. But she's there to bring Dick up to speed since he missed the reading. I think he was Rick at that point. And then she also tells Dick that he needs to keep that dog, which I'm not sure if I have flying dogs. First 3 stories up. Oh yeah, there we go. Derpa derpa derpa. Yeah. Keep that dog. Okay, and then they sit as together as he reads. So at least a nice little moment there. Okay, that was 78, 79. Let's pull this up. There's more that I want to talk about here. And I went back and forth, or I was considering this like, oh man, she is more significant in 79. Is it bad that I'm not doing a review? But no, this is it. What's happening? Please remove this. Okay, where's my head? There it is. There's my head. Okay. Oh no. I was thinking to myself, should I be reviewing this? Can I do this? There we go. We're good. Okay. Should I review Nightwing? And I'm like, no, it's not a Nightwing cast. So I'll talk about it and give you some commentary on it, but I feel like I don't need to do that. I will say with this cover here, and I do like the effects that this cover had. I really actually like this cover, but it's misleading. There's no Batgirl here. What's happening? This doesn't happen. They're not reaching for each other. Misleading. Okay. I think the creative team is the same. Was it at the end? Ooh, Robin in April. I am looking forward to that. Sorry to. Is it this? Is it not this? Uh oh. Please pardon me as I look for creator credits so that I may. Here we go. Yeah, writer. Yeah, okay, same credits. So this is Into the Light, or Leaping into the Light Part 2. So Dick Grayson has inherited Alfred's fortune, a puppy, and a whole lot of questions. Who is Mayor Zuko? What is her relation to the man who murdered Dick's parents? What sinister plans is Blockbuster at for Bloodhaven? What kind of dog food is best for a three-legged puppy? I didn't know that dog was three-legged. To answer these questions, Dick is going to need a little help from his friends, past and present. Let me actually step back and say I'm really enjoying the Nightwing run. It's only been 2 issues, but I feel like Tom Taylor has a good handle on who this character is. I do like that Babs is present, but doesn't need to be heavy-handedly present, and just exploring what that relationship, platonic or not, actually looks like. But I like how in this beginning going through that history there, and then also saying we all need someone to catch us when we fall, someone who makes us feel safe, and then we transition to Barbara, and just showing, I think that's the significance of that particular relationship, and him questioning, number one, that he's got this wealth, what can he do with it to help people out? And I think that's going to be certainly one of the storylines going through this. And then also just, who was he before? What sort of thing as Rick? What sort of things has he left behind as Rick that he could have carried over? Or what sort of things did he leave as Dick before he was Rick? So lots of conflicting things that I like, that he's sitting there and talking to Babs. So that whole scene I think is really nice. And then this, so I have page 8, but with once he offers pizza for, I suppose, people without homes, there is a man in this image. Apparently, Marv Wolfman and George Perez are in here as well. But I went right towards this man. If you look, there's kind of a Steph Brown looking person, but on the right hand side of this top one, there's this black man with I don't know, denim on, and a button-up shirt and a cool hairdo and some sideburns. And I looked at that and I thought, that right there is Donovan Morgan Grant. And not just like the old black people look alike, which, unfortunately racist people say, but like I'm looking at that and I'm like, that is my former beloved. And so I screen capture this and I circled this man and I sent it to Donovan and I said, Donovan, you're in this book. He's like, oh my gosh, it does look like me. So it's not just me, but I thought that was hilarious. A big moment here is now finding out that the Bat family has a group chat, which I find really amusing. So Dick's wallet is stolen at one point, and Oh, I forgot about this. And she says, I'm going to put it in the group chat. And then later on says something like, oh, you lost him. I'm going to put that in the group chat. Just thinking about that. Oh, and something funny is like Cass has a lack of self-control. Yeah, has no self-control. Cass has no self-control when it comes to emojis of all the people, because that's definitely probably me. But just to think of all the people in the Bat family, Cass would be least likely, in my opinion, to be Steph. Oh, here we go. Page 12, beefcake, nose bleeding on me. What's it called? Fan service. Love it when he just rips off his shirt. And she's saying, yeah, she's the handler, right? She gives him a new mask. She can see what he sees. So nice little partnership going on. So then I guess I would just say she's with the dog and everything, that whatever this relationship is, even if it's just a friendship, even if it's just two heroes working together. Donovan was telling me about, I guess it was Titans Academy. I don't know what number, but he was saying something about Dick sleeps with Corey and says like he's run off or run to someplace and it's because of Barbara. And I'm like, that does not jive with this. And when I read this, I texted him and said that, and he said, oh yeah, the editor, I guess, is getting a lot of flack from people that doesn't work out. So continuity issues, editors not catching things, which of course I complain about previously. And hopefully, yeah, that'll be washed away, or at least, yeah. So I really like this. There's the other one, right? Need to up you got overpowered. Need to update the group chat. I really like what Tom Taylor is doing right now. And of the 4 issues I just did with Batman and Nightwing, I also want to say that I believe the art, I don't even need to say I believe. Well, I guess I could. In my opinion, the art is really stunning and beautiful. So just another reason potentially to do that. So I suggest picking it up, giving your money over there. Okay. I guess I'll do Batman Urban Legends 2 first and have the main event be Joker number 2. So Urban Legends, because this I guess will be a warm up for my rage. And I'm not going to spend as much time on it. And I'm only going to talk about one story. And guys, this is what I was talking about. I need a break from Castellucci, and I just can't emotionally invest myself in fully reviewing a story. So it just wasn't worthwhile to me. Barbara's in it, so I feel like I'm failing, but I just need a break from Castellucci. And so I'll just talk about a significant thing. So it is Oracle in Ghost in the Machine, Cecil Castellucci's story, and then art and colors by Marguerite Sauvage. And so this pair should remind you of the virus story that popped up in, I don't know, the Batgirl Joker War or whatever that thing was with the multiple stories. And the art is beautiful, but unfortunately, for whatever reason, Castellucci and I guess DC Comics thought that it would be great to have virus come back again. So the synopsis from the publisher is Barbara Gordon has identified a citywide system hack from a foe she faced before as Batgirl, but this time around, Babs may have found a way to defeat her for good as Oracle. So yeah, the COVID Avengers back. Here we go. She's kind of fighting her digitally, and then later on she'll go up against her in person. There's some talk of, what are those called? Floppy disks, which I thought was really interesting. But sorry, the whole thing is really uninspired, in my opinion. I think the only point of this whole story is this outfit, and that's really all I want to talk about. Okay. Now, besides the overall page being really attractive and beautiful, and the art, I mean, way to go, Marguerite. I don't get this. And the first I was made aware of this was via CBR, Comic Book Resources, and they said like Oracle has a new outfit and it's perfect. And I look up at this and I'm like, I'm sorry, what? What hubba what is that? What? So She has smart glasses, which they're a bit different. They're almost like Ingrid Michaelson style rather than Gloria Steinem style, which I'm disappointed about. She's got an earbud for communications, hidden pin button, microphone, holographic sleeve, smartphone, elegant stealth Batgirl utility belt, cables, some batteries, etc. Okay, so first, if we go back a page, we see that she's actually sewing and stitching this, and now I'm just lazy, so I'm not going to show. But I actually went back to Detective 359. I went to Batgirl Year One and was looking at, oh man, what did this look like? And so, it's interesting. Like those two things, she comes up with this outfit that's pretty amazing. And then with this one, she's like, yeah, I've got this green sweatsuit or tracksuit. I don't even know what you would call this. It's really interesting. My main criticism was actually looking at how off the shoulder it is and the cleavage and all that. And I thought, you know what? When she puts her arm down off of her hip, her tatas are going to fall out. Later on, I will say that at least they're kind of up on her shoulders a bit more, so it seems like they're stable. But this for me, it's uninspired. The Oracle green color, okay, sure. And really the only thing, if you took away, I think that the image alone has to prove itself. The only way that this works, if it works at all, is because of all the bubbles that are telling me what it's about. Otherwise, it's just a fashion. It could have been a little paper doll I could cut out and play with. So honestly, I feel like it's uninspired, unoriginal, and I'm also really confused why, if this is an Oracle outfit and she's going out as Oracle, fighting crime as Oracle, later on, look, she's got her hood up. Why on earth? You're like flaunting it. You're out in the open. If you're going to be Oracle, I think maybe you should be a bit more incognito. So that's a bit strange to me, like, especially since she seems really revealed. She just has her hood up as if that's going to protect her from anything. Stephanie Brown, at least, look at this the juxtaposition of Barbara, and I can see her whole face, versus Stephanie Brown, who at least has a mask on her. So I don't like it. I could find someone that looks like this, heading out to go to Ross. What is it? Some sort of clothing store. So nice try. I don't know. There had to have been something else, or at least show off something without the word bubbles that proves, hey, this is Oracle. This is why this particular design matters. And does that mean she's always going to be wearing this when she's at home in the computer? Like, that doesn't make sense. For the other issues that I saw, she was wearing normal clothing, which is what Barbara does. She just wears normal clothing when she's in front of the computer. And if this is her out and about guys, again, why was she getting coffee or doing what, playing chess? I guess she was doing more than chess, but she's completely, it's like Batman going out without his cowl, walking around Gotham, and then all of a sudden it's time to go after the bad guy, and he puts on his cowl as if that saves anything. So I don't like it, and I guess that's all I have to say about it. Okay, so here we go. This is the main event, people. This is what you were waiting for. I don't know if you were waiting for this. Ooh, let's see if I have any energy back in the tank, or energy in the tank. So we are going to do the Joker number 2. Where are you? There you are. And the creative team is James Tynion the fourth. Uh-oh. I have to scroll through all of this. Guillaume March, I know, is the artist. And then the colorist is the last person that I need. The colorist is Arif Frianto. So there's some nudity. Oh, is this it? Is this it? Okay. I'm going to need to, I'll get back to this. Let me say what the synopsis is. As the dust settles on Arkham Asylum and tragic recent events, the Joker is the most wanted man in the world, and powerful forces are lining up around the globe to hunt him. But where exactly is the Clown Prince of Crime? Jim Gordon, facing his twilight years, haunted by the madman, knows where to start the hunt, and he's been given the go ahead to pursue him, but will he be willing to pay the price? And what shocking revelation will Gordon stun Batman with before he departs? Well, I'll tell you what the revelation is, but I think we should go through some trauma first. And I will, as I'm getting to the trauma, I do want to say that I think I skimmed Joker 1 in particular to prepare for Joker 2. Ah, I found it. Okay. And I don't really understand why they don't call it Jim Gordon, or James Gordon, but perhaps it's maybe they thought he wouldn't be able to sell. Okay, so let us go through some trauma. Let us traumatize each other once more, maybe one final time. I don't know. So this is from Gail Simone's Batgirl number 19. So Batgirl throws a batarang. There's electrocution. Looks like it sticks in James' eyeball. And she tried to spare him, blah, blah, blah. God help me. The rain, the concussion. I tried. Okay. Stop sharing. Next. That was just that page. I want to give you some context, just some context. I wish I could scroll up a bit. Oh, maybe I can. Oh, oh, oh. Boop, boop. Oh, yes, 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 yes. Share screen. This one. Boop. Okay, so it says, get your hands off of her. Barbara's hand, but Batgirl's hands are around Barbara Sr. You're under arrest for murder of my son. Hands on the back of your head, Batgirl. I'm warning you. Batgirl says, I thought I was in hell already, but this is how much further I've fallen. Tonight I became an only child, and I may have made myself an orphan as well. Okay, so that was Batgirl 19. We're not done with the trauma yet, friends. We are not done. Let's go to Batgirl number 49. Is this it? Oh, there it is. I once had a brother who was complicated and messy. I hated him so much I wanted him to die, and now he's gone. He's really gone. Jim Gordon says, I blame you for this, Batgirl. Don't move. Batgirl, I'm placing you under arrest for manslaughter. Batgirl says, how could I ever explain to him what happened? Where do I even begin? I can't. It's over. Mm-mm-mm. Okay. One last one, friends. One last one. This is Batgirl 50. Ooh. Let's see. There are heroes who still care, like Batgirl. She's a piece of work. The city needs a complete overhaul. Ever since the Joker took over the town, everywhere is run down. Bad elements like Batgirl need to be lanced. More police in the streets to combat the mayhem. Batgirl says, or Barbara says, a scorched earth policy isn't going to be helpful. Hate blank can't bleed blank the worst blank Batgirl, some expletive, the scum of blank blank. And then Barbara gets upset and says, Dad, shut up. Babs, are you okay? You have no idea the lengths that I have gone to protect you. Pushing papers for a congresswoman. Mm-mm-mm. I work so hard to do what I do, and when you put down my efforts with hateful misconceptions about Gotham or its citizens or even Batgirl, it hurts me. Mm-mm-mm-mm-mm. James was ill. He struggled and he lost. Meanwhile, Gotham is fighting like hell for itself. Recognize that. I gotta go. I don't want to say anything else either of us will regret. Okay. So the trauma portion is over, but we needed to give context for what's about to happen. So now the main event, of course, is the Joker, number two, aka James Gordon, number two. Okay, James is considering going to hunt down the Joker. Little do people know that he is tasked to kill him, and he's considering it. And I'm going to give you a chaperone. Oracle, are you listening? And she says, yeah. And guess what? My father parsed your words, and you didn't listen to him. Derpa 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 der. And then here we go. Shock of all shocks. This is the revelation. Jim says nonchalantly while drinking some cocoa, probably, who knows. Are you sure you're not just worried about your old man? Barbara, bum, bum, bum. So now he has revealed in an internal monologue. Jim says, I can't help but smile. I can hear the gears turning in Batman's mind, trying to guess how long I've known. In another minute, he'll be asking himself what else I've put together. But there's no distracting Barbara. And the Oracle mask says, Dad, I want you to come see me at the clock tower now. And then shuts off immediately. So that's the big dealio. And then when they meet up, this is the other big thing here. I suggest reading it. I feel like we could, there's some hot chocolate. I'll bring that up if I remember. Um, he says, I know my daughter. It doesn't matter what costume she's wearing or how she's digitally altering her voice. And I know you are Batgirl, or you were Batgirl, and that you were Oracle, and I guess you are Oracle, and she's figuring things out. And he says that's fair. She talks about the implant and that she may be benched to a certain extent. And she says she's lived with it for a long time. And hey, you can talk to me, girlfriend and daughter. And she said, right now, you're not allowed to guilt trip me for not telling you something. And he says, what's it called? Oppression Olympics, kind of. I'm pretty sure a secret crime fighting identity trumps pretending not to know about a secret crime fighting thing. And then she says, that's not what I'm talking about. A few months ago, you told me that you were going to hold Batgirl accountable for what happened to James. Okay. She says, he says, that wasn't fair of me. I'm sorry. I was angry at myself more than anything, angry that I hadn't done more, that I wasn't more open to my son getting better. I was lashing out because if I hadn't pushed him away, Joker wouldn't have been able to play him like he did. And she says, you're not responsible. And he feels responsible. And they talk about the clown, and he does reveal about the killing, and kind of considering it. He uses like totes and says, I'm not considering it. And he does end up saying that, hey, I'm doing this for you. If I don't, you'll always have a target on your back. So those are, I think, the main points that I want to talk about. Where to begin? Where to begin? Okay. So Tynion, they're saying that he is, what's that word that nobody likes? Retconning. Retconning. People say specifically 50, but I feel like it's 49 and 50. And I also feel like it's 19 from Gil Simone's run. I think Tynion is doing this because, and again, editors, where were you? It was terrible. I mean, how he's speaking to her, how he's speaking, golly, it seems even worse. How he's speaking to her, and I guess trying to work through that. I'm still having trouble with it. Let me start with something that's more manageable for me to talk about. I'm so glad that James Gordon is not an idiot. So that's, I think, the first thing to talk about. How many times, how many guests have I had that we've talked about? How can you not tell that that's your daughter, especially as throughout the ages, throughout runs, her mask has become less and less, and you see more and more of her face. Like, clearly, there's something going on. And yes, it could be that whole being willfully ignorant situation, which I think he brings up in No Man's Land, that he knows probably deep down, but also just doesn't want to think about it. So he probably knew for a long time. I think the question is when. Specifically, I don't know if we're going to get a specific date of like when this happened. Maybe the first time that he ran up against her. I almost like to think like, oh, maybe it was when he was Batman, the super heavy, and they fought against Livewire, I think it was. But it seems like it's earlier. Like he knew that she was Batgirl before. So does that 5-year timeline even exist anymore with the new 52? So he knew before, and then the injury, and then coming back to Batgirl, he's known all of that. So I don't know if we can necessarily pinpoint when he knows, but now we know that he knows, and I'm hoping that it sticks. I'm afraid that this is going to be true for a couple years maybe, and then afterwards something will happen, some another retcon, and then he will have forgotten. The problem with him knowing to this degree, besides the obvious of what happened in 19 and 49 and 50, is that she went through a lot of trauma, obviously, and depending on how much is in continuity, crises of faith and dubiousness in her abilities, and to have a father that knows your secret and to not have compassion or reach out to you on that level of, I know you're Batgirl, I know that your injury is deeper than just the injury itself. There's so much more. I think that that was, I have a problem with it. I think that that's, I was going to say bad parenthood, but I also understand on the flip side that she never revealed that whole thing. So there's that trust issue, and maybe he just didn't want to, he felt hurt that she didn't have faith in him or trust in him to talk about it. But I just feel like, man, that wouldn't that be the time? The Killing Joke, wouldn't that be the time to be like, oh, Barbara, I know what this means. I know that um I don't know, your career as a crime fighter is over, but maybe it's not over, and that you're almost pushing her towards Oracle. I think that there's a missed opportunity there, and I think that that is an unfortunate byproduct of this. That it, for me, portrays Jim in a poor light, at least looking there. And then we have the accusations, j'accuse, and the terrible ad hominem attacks on Batgirl, and saying, "Oh man, it was in the heat of the moment. I was just really upset." Man alive. Maybe I can go with you there, but just thinking about like, you, number one, there's no slip, there's no psychological or Freudian slip of you instead of Batgirl or whatever. Like, when you're that hot, I mean, if I get that hot and that angry, I'm going to make mistakes in my speech. And I feel like that would have happened there. But just, he's belittling and attacking Batgirl right in front of the person he knows to be Batgirl seems beyond belief, beyond belief. And I guess so, that's like, nice try, Tynion. I don't think it doesn't really work for me. I think Tynion, maybe others realized how terrible 49 and 50 were, and he had to kind of dial it back and pull it back in or rein it back in. But it's such, I think it was just such a mess that he did the best he could, but it's not good. I think it's one of those like, oh, should you have left it the way it was, or you try to bring it back? But it almost makes him seem worse. Like, you are attacking your own daughter right now, but pretending that it's Batgirl. That's insane to me. It's almost like how you were able to disconnect your mind in order to do that. And then the reasonings of him going after Joker, that, well, Barbara, you'll always have a target on your back, at least I can get rid of him. And what I said on the Batman Universe comic podcast is, Barbara Gordon can take care of her own damn self. You need to, this is you, so you need to own that this is a selfish thing on you, and not for Barbara. The hot chocolate is a bit weird, just because I feel like that's a bit of a nod to the Killing Joke, because that was a randomly a plot point just with like, or a detail, I guess, for the hot cocoa. But I think the shock is he knows. He's known and he will know. But it's everything that follows, like explanations, which I'm glad he doesn't ignore Tanyan. I'm glad Tanyan doesn't ignore like, oh well, why'd you say these things? And they bring up good points about trust and everything. And I hope that maybe in a future plot point we work on that trust and everything. But I think if you now have this detail in your mind, it just brings into question Jim as a father and his role and what was he doing during these traumatic moments and her recovery. And then also just how are you able to separate yourself so much and really go after your daughter like this twice in terms of arresting and then of course the diner situation. So really interesting. I think it was Steph on the comic podcast that said something like, you know, Batgirl 50 and 49 was a turd, and it's still like even if you shine it or make it pretty, it's still a turd. So that's I guess what happened there. So it's just unfortunate that 50, 49, and even 19 exist, and we unfortunately had to deal with that. So we'll see what happens. I think there was a suspicion Ian Prime, yeah, I have to unfriend Ian Prime because of this, that Jim will die, which is a kind of a Spider-Man symptom, right? That once someone finds out about Spider-Man, inevitably that person will die or finds out about Spider-Man's secret identity, to be more specific. And so that is, I never thought about that. And I think that that would be terrible, terrible for many reasons. I think this could develop nicely. I think we could really have a stronger, more intimate relationship between father and daughter than we've had for a long time, specifically New 52. And why Barbara is distinct from the Bat family and being one of the few, if not one of the only people who started being a hero not because of trauma, but because of celebration, celebrating her father. And so to take that away and then put her in with everybody else again, I think is uninspired. So mixed feelings, mixed feelings. But honestly, I feel like this retcon, if that's what people are calling it, is Tanyan did the best he could. He took a shot. I feel like it didn't pan out. Um, and the explanation is like he tries the best he can to explain this terrible thing, but the thing is so terrible that it's hard to explain away. And I feel like also that it portrays Jim poorly. So I think, look, I was more sensical. I didn't yell. So if you want my emotion, excuse me, if you want my emotional take on it, you should check out Batman Universe Comic Podcast. I think, golly, that's it. I'm not going to rate it. I don't think it's worth my rating because the rest of the story I didn't really look at. So there you go. Oh, I didn't do any reviews on this one, but I did some commentary, so it's all good. Okay, next up is anime watch list, and I hesitate calling this an anime because it is Korean American, though the style, I don't know, we could say it's an animation. So Dota Dragon's Blood, which is on Netflix, and it's book one, and there are 8 episodes in book one, and they're about 30 minutes, 26 to 28. Set in a fantasy world, the story follows a Dragon Knight Davian who hunts dragons to make the world a safer place. In a battle between demon and dragons, an elder dragon merges the soul of Davian. Along with the moon princess Marana, Davian pursues a journey to stop the demon Terrorblade who wants to kill dragons and collect their souls. It is violent and there's some language, but I was shipping these two people right away, and I am glad. I'm happy to say that the shipping paid off. But no, I really enjoyed this. I gave it's like Skyscraper of Terror or something something. I can't even remember what it was called, about this weird world where this schoolgirl wakes up and people are trying to kill her on these roofs on skyscrapers. And I think I got 5 minutes through the first one. There was like sexual assault, and I'm like, nah. I mean, it was also violent. I'm just like, I'm not in for it. And then I tried this one. I thought, oh, this is really interesting. I like it. So I'm looking forward to more books, as they say. Okay, what are you wearing? I have given my 2 weeks notice at my current job because I'm going to have another job, and the current job was just a temp, so it's going to end anyways. But I decided I've got 2 weeks left. I'm going to wear what I want. So on Monday, I wore an Iron Fist shirt. Wait a minute. No, I think Monday I wore regulation. Tuesday I wore an Iron Fist shirt, and today I wore the Fat Man, aka Wilson Fisk, and I pretended to be him because I wore purple pants and this white blazer. So the Wilson Fisk, the Kingpin. So there you go. And I don't know. I haven't decided what I'm going to wear tomorrow yet. I've got so many Batgirl shirts that I could probably wear those for the rest of the 2 weeks. Okay, and my final segment is literature recommendation. Let me pause. Boop. Okay, so white privilege was the last one from the previous episode. I read all 5 volumes of The Superior Spider-Man. I'm trying to get caught up. Donovan speaks really highly of the current Spider-Man run, so I thought maybe I'll get back into Spider-Man. It's been so long since I've read him, and I feel an absence, so maybe I'll give him a shot. So I was reading that to kind of get caught up, and now I think I might just jump on to the current stuff. So I read all 5 of those, which are pretty good. I read Empathy for the Devil by J.R. Forasteros, which is finding ourselves in the villains of the Bible, which is really interesting. Just like, hey, we have, the sin that Cain had, and Herodias and Herod and Judas and even the devil. Like we should be able to not only see ourselves or hope to be the heroes, but also the fallen people as well, because even the heroes have their issues. So in Herod's chapter, he gives background to sort of the political climate as well as becoming a province of Rome. And he talks about Pompey the Great, but instead of putting Pompey, he puts Pompeii multiple times. The city, the location Pompeii rather than Pompey. And so I ended up emailing him and I said, "Sir, for future printings, please no." And he wrote back, and I tried to be not a troll. So I had positive things and then had this sandwich in between the positive things. And he wrote back and said, "Thank you. I appreciate that." And asked me which person or entity was my favorite. We've got, the final novel of my 10.5 year journey of the Rory Gilmore's reading list. It's over. I read it. It's novels, which was actually 5 in 1. Novels from 1930 to 1942. Dance Night, Come Back to Sorrento, Turn Magic Wheel, and Angels on Toast, A Time to Be Born, all by Dom Powell. Not what I would have chosen to be my last one, but whew, last interlibrary loan that I'll have for a while. I'm happy. Then I read Two Plays, The Sound Inside by Adam Rapp, which I recommend, and Betrayal by Harold Pinter, which I also recommend. I reread The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime by Mark Haddon, which I gave 2 thumbs up. And you can listen to that episode of Required Reading in May. Yep. We Were 8 Years in Power, An American Tragedy by Ta-Nehisi Coates. Now, you may know that, and I would recommend this. Now, you may know that I'm not the greatest fan of his, and I didn't really care for Between the World and Me, but I better understood Coates as well as the context of Between the World and Me. So maybe I'll try that again now that I know a bit more. The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt. I have complicated feelings on it. I know that it's highly lauded. There were drugs, so many drugs, and it's really long. That was actually an audiobook that I listened to on the way to Nashville and back, and also for a couple weeks with work during my lunch. The Color of Law, A Forgotten History of How Our Government Segregated America by Richard Rothstein, which I highly recommend. So yeah, looking at what is it, blockbusting and redlining and white flight and the Great Migration and how ghettos became ghettos. And yeah, it was really interesting. And then what I'm currently reading right now, which I should finish if not today, then tomorrow, is Redefining Realness, My Path to Womanhood, Identity, Love, and So Much More by Janet Mock, which is a memoir. And Janet Mock is a trans woman. So that was, was really interested in that because I feel like that's a voice that is not heard often. So I was really intrigued. And some of it's really heavy stuff, especially pertaining to sexual assault and survival sex work. So I think if that's something that's going to be triggering for you, then I don't recommend it. But I have been enjoying it and just hearing her voice and learning more about the trials and tribulations of trans women and trans women of color in particular. Okie dokie. Well, remember you can send any questions or comments to batgirltheoracle@gmail.com. You can also find the show on Google Play and Stitcher. Like the show on Facebook or follow it on Twitter @BatgirlTheOracle. Subscribe to the show on YouTube for an uncut version, which you're about to see, probably really long. Follow the Batman Universe on Facebook and Twitter as well, and support the Batman Universe by subscribing to Patreon. Once again, thanks to Mile High Comics for sponsoring Batgirl the Oracle, the Barbara Gordon podcast. Thank you to my former beloved Donovan Morgan Grant, and happy birthday one final time. And thanks for popping on. And next time you'll see him as well as hear him as we look at Bruce Jerk, Murderer, Fugitive. Thanks for sticking with me. I think there were some technical difficulties, rambling. I had to think about things, but actually, you know what? I'm okay with this episode because sometimes I feel like, oh man, I failed you. I feel like, you know what? I think I did okay. So I think I'll take a break now because boy, I'm worn out at all the talking I had to do. Thank you guys. I always appreciate you, even though I may not thank you all the time, but I really do. Until next time, though, fly on, Babs lovers.